More of the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
All right, welcome back in. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. 5:15 is the time from the Princeton Orthopedic Associates studios. David Nelson's going to hop on with us in just a second. Man doing a lot of great charity work, the former NFL wide receiver, and also doing some work with the NFL Network. And I think a lot of good things when I hear the name David Nelson, but this is one sports memory that comes to mind for me.
Estepinen checks in as an extra blocker, number 93. Lofted into the end zone. Touchdown, Nelson.
We all know that's the monumental touchdown catch thrown by Tim Tebow to David Nelson in the BCS championship game against Oklahoma. So let's bring on David Nelson, who's kind enough to join us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. David, that must bring back some good memories for you, right?
Man, those are the best memories. I feel like I have that entire audio clip memorized.
Can you recite it for us right now? Like, let's say you're the announcer. Give it to us.
That's the Pete on checks. I'm not going to do Chris Myers like that. He's one of the best in the business. But man, that's one of the memories that I'll never forget, and it was such a beautiful time.
Hey, I have to ask you, because in our fan base right now, we have a lot of New York fans, we have a lot of Philadelphia fans, and we'll get to all the football talk coming up in a second. But in terms of baseball, your former quarterback and Tim Tebow is now trying to make a baseball career with the Mets. What do you think about that?
Well, I know Tim very well, and him and I go back a long ways. And I've been fortunate enough to know him not only as a teammate but also as a friend. And just forget the athletic ability and forget all of the accomplishments he's achieved on the field. Just knowing him from a personal standpoint and a personal dynamic, there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to give everything he has and is going to be successful in some shape or fashion in his baseball approach. I like to make fun of him all the time because we used to go to batting cages, and he always had a knack for being able to make contact with the ball, but for whatever reason, it was just he's just too strong for his own good sometimes. But I'm excited for him, man, and he's really excited about it. He's putting everything, all his effort and his mindset and everything he approached to the game of football that made him so successful, and he's applying that to his time now in baseball. And man, there's not a doubt in my mind that he's going to do well and really succeed in that area.
Who's a better baseball player, you or Tim Tebow when it comes to baseball?
That's what I was going to get at. I didn't want to say it, so you said it for me. He might be listening right now. No, the guy is. He is just an overall. He is a fantastic athlete. I mean, the guy, if he picks up a sport, he's able to just do well at it, exceed at it. Baseball was something that I was good at, more so in the field, less so in the batting cages. So if you put my ability in the field and his ability in the batting cages, we would have made for a pretty special player.
well, don't sidestep it right there. If you want to be full-time with the NFL Network, I need an opinion. You think you're better than Tim Tebow.
I don't think anybody in this world can say they're better than Tim. And if you do, he's going to come out looking for you. So I know better than that. I've played too many video games against that guy to know that if I am better at him than something, he's never going to let me live it down. And so I would just go ahead and let him have that one.
He always had a great passion, and he's so intense when he's on the field as a competitor, and we know it didn't work out for him in the NFL. But when you go back to your days at Florida, just take me through what it was like to be in the huddle with him and a little bit more on his leadership.
Yeah, and he has this a natural ability, and there's, they always have that cliche saying that, some leaders are born and some leaders are made. Tim just has this ability to be able to captivate whoever's around him. I mean, people are just drawn to him, whether that be through what he's saying or how he lives. And I believe that true leaders are people who can do something with set a standard, demand that everybody lives up to it, but lives to that same standard themselves consistently. We saw Tim not only do it in the locker room, not only do it in the huddle, not only do it in practice, but we saw him do it when he was studying for tests. We saw him do it when he was working out for pro day or whatever it may be. And so when you have somebody who lives like that and they see his teammates see him living like that and doing those things time in, time out, there's no question whenever it's fourth quarter and the game is on the line against Alabama my junior year, we have to go down the field and drive, and he comes to the huddle and he's clapping his hands and says, guys, we got this. Follow me. We're going to get this done. That that everybody buckles a chin strap up a little bit more because we know he means business because we've seen him do it, not just because of what he says, but because of what he does.
David Nelson with us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. David, I have to get serious with you just for a second, and then we'll get back to the football conversation. And being a part of Florida and those teams, that a name that's always going to surface, especially now because of what's going on off the field, is Aaron Hernandez, and we know what he's been convicted of, and there's also a trial still going on right now, and it's heinous acts, and there's no explanation really for it. But since you've had some years to really wrap your head around about what your former teammate did do on some just terrible decisions, and some that aren't mistakes, but they're just awful decisions that he made, and you see all the lives that he impacted and how he robbed so many innocent lives. How do you react to when you bring up the name Aaron Hernandez and someone brings it up to you, just because you know him when he was at Florida, and now we see what he has really turned into?
Yeah, and I mean, first and foremost, my heart breaks for those that families and friends that have been affected by, the trial. Like you said, I'm no expert in the legal system, and I don't get into the whole dynamic. I do know there's a court situation, or he's on trial right now for a situation, and so won't comment on that. But I spent 4 years with Aaron, and got to know him really well, and got to know his brother and his family and mom, his kid, and during my time there with him, always enjoyed him. Always, I took him under my wing, if you will, on the field, and really believed in him. It's all just a tremendous talent. Obviously there was tendencies there that we saw while we were in college, never to that extreme. To be totally honest with you, when I found out about this a few years ago, I was completely shocked. Never knew that he had that the potential for something like this was in him. Was completely shocked, but I do know that he was a lot of time a product of who he was hanging out with, and so it's unfortunate that so much talent, and I do believe that he was a talented player, and also he had a heart for his son and his daughter and his fiance, and it's just unfortunate that decisions and places that he put himself in has now brought him to the place that he's in, and more than anything, my heart just breaks for the lives that have been traumatically and forever changed because of those decisions.
The last one on this, and then we'll move on and we'll talk a little bit Eagles, but have you talked to him ever since he's been arrested in 2012?
I haven't, and honestly, it's something that I've had people ask me that question before, and I've thought about it, and I've a few of my teammates from Florida, we've talked about it, and not as a sign of support, and not as a sign of, and more than anything, he doesn't owe me answers, and he doesn't owe. So I've always had a question whether or not what my purpose is for wanting to reach out to him and talk to him, and at the end of the day, it's decisions were made, and he made them, and he has to hold himself accountable to them. The United States has to hold him accountable to that, and like I said, my heart just breaks, and for his kids, and obviously for the lives that have been affected by this. But I've thought about it, just haven't really found a reason to, and haven't been able to make it happen.
David Nelson with us right now. All right, let's move on. We got to get into the Eagles, and we've heard their entire brass speak over the last 2 days, whether it was Doug Peterson. You heard Howie Roseman and Joe Douglas speak yesterday, in addition to the owner of the team and Jeffrey Lurie. When you break it down and give us that NFL Network analyst on the Eagles, do you think they're moving in the right direction, David?
I do. And I mean, it's just more than anything, it comes down to the quarterback position. I mean, as a receiver, that's always going to be the first thing that I look for. And obviously, with the big the big decision that was made last year to bring in Carson Wentz and be able to bring him in, and the success that he had at an early stage and early on when he was playing, just shows me the potential that's there. Obviously, they hit a little lull through the mid part of the season. I think that a lot of that's just that rookie fatigue. When you leave college, you go straight into pro day and combine prep, and then as soon as that's done, you go straight into rookie minicamp and then OTAs. And I've seen consistently rookies at every position struggle around that 6 to 7 week period. They're just so worn out. They haven't had that break, and there's so much that's been thrown at them continuously. And so I see it there. I do like the offseason additions that are being made, specifically with bringing in the young Long the other day and bringing him in. He brings that veteran presence that will really help that defensive front. And I'm really excited about what they can do. Obviously, they're in a very tough division right now with Washington making some good additions. New York's, I think, right now, in my opinion, the team to beat in the NFC East. And obviously the Cowboys coming off of a great year. But I like Philadelphia, maybe not necessarily in this coming up year, but like the additions that they're making to set themselves up for a long-term and sustainable success for the next decade.
Why do you like the Giants right now more than the Cowboys?
If you just look at how the Cowboys and the Giants match up, just specifically you watched what happened last year whenever the Giants and the Cowboys played each other, and you look at the strength of schedule. I believe that the Cowboys had a little bit of an easier schedule last year, just the way it was matched up, whether it be playing teams at the right time, in the right place. I love that. I love New York's defensive front seven and the addition of a couple of players they made this offseason. I played with a guy by the name of Snacks over there, and Mr. Harrison, he's a beast on the front line. And really, when those guys play healthy, they are playing better than anybody I've seen as far as from that defensive seven. And I just really like what's happening right now. I like, even though they had to let go of Victor Cruz, they've gotten younger in the receiving area. I think that there's going to be a big, and it sounds kind of scary almost, but there's going to be a big improvement in Odell Beckham's game. There's some people that I know that have been working with him, and he's really working on the sports psychology, the sports mental aspect of his game to be able to kind of eliminate those tempered moments, eliminate the situations that he puts himself in that take away from his play on the field. And that's going to do nothing but make him a better player. And you're just seeing last year, I think you had a bunch of new pieces that were trying to fit, and they didn't really know how to mold it. You had a rookie first-year head coach. And so I think this year, when you really have an entire offseason to kind of get those guys together and really get them to mesh well together, I think you're going to see a really dynamic team, and it's obviously my team to beat in the NFC right now.
I think the window is very short for the Giants, but I do agree they have a lot of good pieces just because the age of the quarterback right now in Eli Manning, and we'll see if Eli could bounce back. But my big concern with the Giants, and it would not shock me if they win the NFC East this year, but it's their offensive line play. What are you seeing out of their offensive line, and how do they improve that thing? Because the left tackle spot's very scary.
You're exactly right, and that's going to be the make or break for the New York Giants. And specifically, we've seen just how much that affects the play of Eli Manning. And that's, I think, more than any quarterback in the National Football League, he relies heavily on his offensive line. If he's under pressure or under duress, statistically, the time the time for the ball to release his hand takes a lot longer, and that in his history has led to more interceptions, has led to more sacks, more forced fumbles, and the New York Giants just statistically are not prone to win a game whenever they're minus in the turnover margin. And so for them to be able to make these key additions, I have seen that they've been interested in adding another center. But in Mangold, I played with him in New York. He's one of the best, most solid, consistent guys you can have, especially on the offensive line. If they can really add a piece there in the draft, I do believe there's a couple of young rookies who are coming in that would be able to really add that piece for them. And you're exactly right. The opportunity in the window of success for the New York Giants is a year or two. So they really have to strike while the iron's hot, and if not, they're going to be in a difficult situation come 2 or 3 years from now.
Wrapping up with David Nelson, who joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. David, let me get back to Carson Wentz, and I did agree with a lot of your analysis on him, and I think the scary part, and it's a good thing for Eagles fans, is now he actually has some talent around him with Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith, and there's still a lot of room to go, but you see his rookie year, I had to take it a little bit with the grain of salt and the mistakes just because who he was throwing the football to. How about the receivers they brought in with Alshon Jeffrey, and how much do you think Torrey Smith has left in the good old tank?
I got nothing but respect for Torrey Smith, and I know that bringing somebody like him in, regardless of what he's going to be able, and there's so much hidden value and hidden success beyond the numbers and beyond the actual statistical production when you add veteran leadership players like Torrey Smith. They may not necessarily catch 100 balls and go 1,500 yards, but what he's going to be able to do specifically with a player that's so talented but a little unknown as far as what he's going to do with Alshon Jeffrey. Tremendous talent, but does need somebody there that's going to be able to provide that leadership for him. And then also, obviously, we have a young quarterback like Carson, to be able to have a veteran receiver who can communicate with him and talk with him and be able to show him, educate him on certain dynamics to work well together, whether he's catching the ball or not, it's going to add a huge dynamic to that offense, to his overall dynamic, to his overall ability as a quarterback.
And then when we get to the draft, and I know the Eagles, they have a bevy of needs, and they could go corner, they could go get a pass rusher, get a running back, or maybe even a wide receiver to try to get a long-term answer in here. When you look at the wide receivers' tapes, specifically the trio that we're seeing that are going to be going in the first round of Mike Williams, Corey Davis, and then also John Ross, do you have a favorite out of those three wide receivers? Who are some of the receivers you like this year in the draft?
Well, if I'm going just based off of film and I'm taking away names, I'm taking away anything else, that kid from Clemson, Mike Williams, is a special talent. Now, obviously with the history of wide receivers coming out of college with the name of Mike Williams, that does frighten me just a little bit. But just looking at the overall tape, just from a standpoint of the eye test, I don't get too much into the combine. I don't know the times that were ran. I don't let that influence my decision because I want to go based on overall integrity of a football player from what they put on the film. And Mike Williams, just from, even from when he was a young player to now, just the transgression he's made as a player. He's aggressive. He's physical. He's what you want in a receiver. My question is the mental aspect. Can he apply it? Can he apply the same things that he had while he was in college with people, coaching him and teaching him and training him? Can he apply that to the next level whenever there's a little more freedom? Sometimes when receivers get to the NFL, they lose that edge they have when they're in college because there's so much freedom. They're not necessarily kind of keying in on certain dynamics and certain points. It's a little more free. And so that'll be my only thing is, does he have the overall self-discipline to be able to continue that development that he's made? He's still raw. He's still got some things that he needs to work on. But does he have that overall self-discipline that will continue that continue that progression into the NFL? But Mike Williams is a special player and somebody that I'll be keeping my eye on in that first round.
And then we get into the running back situation, and everyone's seen the horrific video of Joe Mixon and just knocking that girl out cold, and it's disgusting, and there's no excuse for it. He was 110% in the wrong, but because of his talent, a team's going to give him a second chance, and he'll probably go as early as the second round. With the Joe Mixon situation, I'm sure you understand if a team doesn't want to bring that in or if a team does want to take the risk and bring him in because of his talent. But when a player comes into a locker room and he has a checkered past like that, how does that affect the locker room when you have some veteran players having to answer about a decision the team made with Joe Mixon and what happened with that video?
You're exactly right. And I'm a big proponent for I get it. These kids, 18, 19, 20, 21, I made some dumb mistakes. We're never to that extreme, but I made some dumb mistakes and when I was that young. But and I definitely agree in second chances. And like you said, he's a talented football player. He's going to add value to from an overall football standpoint. But what I look for and what comes into it is that you got to, for a player like that who is going to be targeted by the media, not necessarily in a bad way, but just everything he does is going to be documented. Every decision, every reaction that he makes on the field and off is going to be highly scrutinized. He's going to need to be drafted. Players like that need to be drafted not only into a organization that has the support and administration for him, but a locker room that will come alongside him with veteran leadership, with players who maybe have been in situations similar in the past and have overcome it. I mean, there's so many beautiful stories of guys who have done bad things and have made mistakes, but have owned up to it and have come back to be better people and better players. And so for me, I'm praying, I'm hoping that he gets put in a situation where he's surrounded by an administration as well as a locker room of guys who are going to say, listen, we know you can play ball, but that's actually second hand. You got to be able to do what you need to do off the field. You need to be able to handle the media, handle all of these threats and these accusations that the fans and different people are throwing at you, and be able to cast that aside and be able to play ball. And without a team that is able to surround him with that and be able to walk with him through that, it could become too much for him to handle, and it may not necessarily contribute to him doing something devastating off the field, but it could affect his play on the field. He may never really develop into the player that he could potentially be. So I'm hoping that he finds a team that can really surround him with the support he needs.
The obvious shame of this is the act that he committed of hitting a woman, and it's just despicable and it's disgusting, and like I said, there's no excuse for it. But really, another shame of it is then the perception that it creates with all NFL athletes of, oh, all these NFL athletes are bad guys, and we know that's the completely false thing to say, because we see some of the work that you've been able to do, and I met you at the Super Bowl in New York, and you were telling me about your charity. So use this forum right now to just enlighten some people about the great work that you do, because I think your story and the charity work that you do is very inspirational.
Yeah, man, and I appreciate that. And what I've been able to do and what I've been able to accomplish is something that is, it's changed my life. But, and more than anything, just in what you said, I mean, man, there are so many guys that are doing some unbelievable things and some life-changing initiatives around the world. I mean, I talked about Kyle Long, and what the Long brothers are doing with their Water Boys project around the world. You look at Matt Overton, this long snapper who doesn't get a whole lot of attention because he's a long snapper, but the work that he's doing with the police all around the country. And I mean, just go every locker room you can look into, and guys that don't get a lot of attention, whether it be because they're just not the biggest name on the roster, or there's so many guys around the league who are doing some amazing things. And I give credit to the guys who do these things and don't pursue the attention, don't pursue the accolades. They do it because it's out of the kindness of their heart. And there's something to be said about people who serve and do something bigger than themselves, and they do it in an anonymous standpoint. I know here in Dallas, the running back, I'm not going to say his name because he wanted to remain anonymous, but the running back walked into a pet shelter and contributed a large sum of money and asked the pet shelter here that they don't use his name and don't tell anybody about it. And for me, that just speaks volumes and just shows that, yes, a lot of these guys, they do make mistakes, and they do that doesn't define who they are as men and who they are as people. And some of these guys are just some of the most amazing fathers, amazing husbands, and they're doing some amazing things in the community service. And that's what I want to start to be able to highlight, and less about what I'm doing and what's going on over there, more about what's going on and what these guys who are currently playing and what they're getting into and the difference they're making in the lives of people.
Well, you're extremely humble, and it's very nice of you to say. So I'm going to let you talk about yourself for a little bit. If people do want to help you and support your cause, how do they get involved in the initiative that you're trying to bring to something that's very important to you?
Well, first of all, I'd love for them to come with me. Come on, you got to come first. I'm bringing you first, and then if you come, your listeners will come as well. We got to go to Haiti. We'll go down there. We'll have a good time.
No, I'm seriously in. Like, send me the information. I'll take some vacation days off, and I'll come with you, and we'll do some good work. I'm in.
Man, let's do it. That's more than anything. That's how people can help. I mean, there's something to be said. Yes, we need money. Yes, we need resources. But, man, having people come and using their time and using their resources to come and actually physically love on these kids and, build house, whatever it may be, it changes their lives. And it means the world to them. And it also changes the people who go. And so, all the information is on our website, www.imme.org. It has all the information about our trips and ways that people can get involved. But man, it's just it's a beautiful time to be alive, isn't it?
Yes, it is. David, hey, I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Great work.
Hey, man, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
There's David Nelson joining us on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. I love good charity work, and I'm someone that I remember back when I was in high school. I went away with the sleepaway camp that I went to, Pine Forest Camp, and we did this underprivileged mission. And we went to Costa Rica in an underprivileged community, and we ran a camp for kids for 5 days, and it was a very rewarding experience. So we'll make sure to connect with David, and that'd be very cool to go to Haiti and try to help his cause. 609-919-9200. This is the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. What we'll do right now is we'll take a quick break. One more segment to play. When we get back, it's time to do a little MLB, AL, over-unders. We'll get into those next on the Zach Gelb Show.